Okay, guys, this is going to be part 2 of basic pattern sequencing, pattern saving, step length, shuffle. Real quick, I wanted to show the MIDI setting for sequencing to external clock that I neglected to put in the last video. You'll click BPM MIDI, and then cursor over to clock sync. Turn the data wheel, and now clock sync is on. So I'm going to also show right quick muting of voices. I might have mentioned in the first video these first 11 encoders. Well, they're all clickable, but when you click them while playing a pattern, they function as mutes. So I've got one of the factory patterns loaded. It doesn't have triggers on every one of these voices, but it has them on most of them. So when they're muted, they're flashing. And we're going to hit play over here, and there it's running. And bring these in. The first one is FM. These numbers correspond, you know, left to right. So this is 11, this is 10, this is 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kind of useful because if you wanting to improvise and didn't have a particular change or wanted to basically mute a track or solo a track and a live performance on the fly, you could do it this way. These are the 2 sample voices. And now these next 4 are the multi-mode VCA, VCF sample voices. These 2 voices are, let me mute that again. These 2 voices are the hi-hat optimized. These 2 voices running here are the hi-hat optimized filter. This one here is going to be the M-Brain, which is a specialized Jomox voice. Kick, of course. Okay, you hear that? Sometimes, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just a characteristic of the analog circuitry in this box, but sometimes when you stop the sequencer and it lands on a certain note and it's in the midst of triggering it, it seems to hang like the filter glitches. My cat. So I don't know if that's a bug or if it's just part of it. Right now it's doing it on one of those sample voices. And sometimes it'll do it on a hi-hat voice like gzzz, and it'll hang like that. And so I guess, I mean, you could work around it fairly easily, make sure that the sequence ends on the correct step at the end of a song, or if you actually stopped your sequencer in the middle of the song, you have to make sure it didn't stop on one of those problematic voices. Not real sure yet. So if I am playing a pattern and it hangs up and does that, and I fire and start the sequencer a few times just to get rid of that hang. That's what's going on. So let's cover the pattern saving real quick. So I'm going to go to bank. Bank 1 is fully populated from the factory. Bank 2, pattern 1 has something I made. It's just a little simple. So a couple things about the workflow, because there's 2 ways to save. One is a quick save, the other is a permanent store. All of the things I'm going to show you are using the internal memory in the machine. You can also save to SD card, patterns and kits, as well as save and load samples, because it does have input for sampling. It's a high Z input, so you can even plug a guitar straight in. Stereo too, left and right. So again, I'm going to show just the internal memory saving because I'm having some sort of issue with the SD card reader in it. I don't know if it's an incompatibility with the card or if it's just, I know it's formatted properly. It has to be FAT32, but it will not read it. It just says there's not one inserted. So I'm working with my retailer to sort it out. I don't know if it's a hardware fault or just incompatibility, but I'll get it figured out one way or another. So we're gonna this pattern here. I'm out of editing mode, and so I'm gonna be in editing mode. I'm gonna click the hi-hat and show you how you could basically lose your pattern quickly. So I added a bunch of steps here. So if I were to go out of editing and click another pattern, naturally, that's as easy as it was to lose the pattern. So if I go back, those triggers are gone because I went out of the pattern and didn't do anything. So there's two ways to stop that from happening. They've got shortcuts for quick save kit and quick save pattern. To quick save kit, it's going to be shift and click encoder 16. To quick save the pattern, shift and click encoder 15. So if I were to add those steps in, click shift 15, pattern quick store to RAM. Now, if I go back out, pick another pattern, whoop, thinks I'm clearing. I was too quick there. Back out, pick another pattern. Go back to that pattern. Now they're saved. Now, if I were to power off the machine, it's gone. That's just going into RAM. So if you want to permanently save that change, you're going to hit Shift 1 is store kit, Shift 2 is clear pattern, and Shift 3 is store pattern. And there's some more, but we won't do all those. Shift 3. Okay, and this, it's 0 to 63. And I'll explain that. So basically, bank 1, pattern 1 is 0. You can see it step through the banks as you as you increment through the numbers. So bank 4, pattern 16 is 63. Little confusing, but it's because he starts on 0. So if I wanted to save that in bank 2, pattern 1, that's going to be what? Let's see. Well, 0 is, 16 is what it is. Intuitively, you would think it would be 17, but it's 16 because of 0. And so we're going to hit enter. And now it takes all this time. Now the pattern is actually saved to RAM. Or not RAM, but flash memory. Not SD flash memory, the internal flash memory. Okay? I know that seems tedious, and it's probably because I'm so new to this machine, so appreciate the patience. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show is shuffle. I don't know how useful this will sound, but Shift 6, shuffle setting from 0 to 11. Okay. Last thing I'll cover is step length. So in the first video I made, I sort of said something that was incorrect. Well, I said that each bar can be 16, 32, 48, or 64 steps, but that's not really true. They can also be odd numbers of steps. So you can have anything, any value for the length of step, including odd numbers, and it's per instrument, of course. So if on this pattern here, it's the wrong one. This pattern here, my little simple. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the hi-hat voice right here, and I'm gonna, for interestingness sake, I'm going to change the step length to an odd number. So we're gonna hit Shift, last step, and it's going to display a number. In this case, it's 32. We're going to make it something in between 16 and 32. Let's make it, I don't know, 25. Okay. Enter. Now, that hi-hat pattern should move around. So you can create polyrhythms this way. You can see it flip through the bars. There's a full bar and our little half bar. Not quite half, but you get the idea. You can go up to 64. So if I were in the kick drum voice, I can't remember how many bars this one is. Okay, it's 32. And so if we hit, again, Shift, last step, chose 64, enter, and then went. Now we can move to these other bars. And it seems to just create the same pattern that you've already established in the previous existing bars. So since I had hits on each downbeat, it just added those in for the third and fourth bar. I think that's all I wanted to cover. Thanks.